welcome to the Fitness Freedom Podcast. Today I have a very special guest, Dr. Sherry Mcallister. She's the president of the Foundation for Chiropractic Progress. She has served as a professor, and she's also the author of Adjusted Reality, a book on holistic well-being. And she's here to help us by giving us some insight and helpful tips from 25 years of clinical experience. So welcome, Dr.
Thank you.
Sherry.
Thank you for having me, Michelle.
Yes, I'm so happy to have you. We were just talking about Madison before we hit record and how you love Madison and you know this neck of the woods where I am, and you are coming from
Grass
California.
Valley, California.
Yeah, welcome across the world. So, can you tell us a little bit more about how you got into the work that you do and a little bit more about what you do?
Sure. So by happenstance, this career that I chose actually chose me, I think, is what really happened. Is I was studying in cellular molecular microbiology, and I wanted to be a pediatric oncologist. So that was the big goal. And almost halfway through my degree, I got into a car accident.
Oh,
And that changed everything for me. I had severe headaches that wouldn't go away. And it's very difficult to look into a microscope. And I was doing microscope work probably 10 hours a day. So, my last resort, after trying everything, and I actually was fortunate not to like my opiate that was gifted to me by my physician. It just made me sick and tired, and that led me to keep searching. So the search led me to my colleague coming up to me and giving me a card, and that card was about seeing a chiropractor. And I just thought to myself, if that chiropractic profession actually worked, why didn't I get that as a choice? Because I had probably 10 different choices, and I went through all of them, one by one, and nothing was making it better. So, after 6 months of suffering and sickness and stomach upset, I finally went to the chiropractor, and it was so profound that it changed how I looked at health and my own well-being. And here I am with you now after many, many years now in clinical practice, now launching a book to help others so that they don't see their health as, a last resort option. We should be flipping things around.
That's an amazing story. So, in your 25 years of experience, you spent a lot of time with patients, with clients, and working with bodies and learning so much. What is something that or what are a few lessons, if you'd like to share more than one, what are some things that you learned just from your experience of working with people? Like, what are some things that stand out around health, around bodies?
Oftentimes, what I noted, because my practice was in Silicon Valley and I had what was called the C-suite practice, which is, the Fortune 500 company chief executive officers and chief financial officers, they would come in. I'm 6 minutes from the San Jose airport, so it's in and out. And what they did was often see their health as just another to-do list. And I respected that. But I also took the time that they were with me to make it a first priority for them. Because at the end of the day, the greatest wealth you can ever accumulate is your health. And that really was one of the significant pieces that made me recognize that for people to be functionally successful in life, they have to put their health as number one. And that health empowerment, and I think that's one of the big pieces and flaws that we see is there's oh, it's just a secondary thing. And if it's not bothering me, it's not a problem. To really, Michelle, what I think is the most fundamental problem in today's world, which is our current healthcare system, because it really is fragmented and it's not serving anyone. We're the sickest nation on the earth with the highest number of dollars spent on health. Yet here we are still thinking that there's a pill for every ill. And I think there's where we need to supercharge our population to really reflect on how important it is to do what's necessary in life focused on your health.
Yeah, and I can see that too from just my work as well. It's like people often see health as an aesthetic thing. And it's like, oh, if I don't need to change my body, or if I'm okay with my body, or it's not that important to me right now, then I don't need to work out or eat differently. And it is like we are so focused on like accumulating possessions or like reaching this idea of success that health is like another marker of success almost in some communities and some social circles. And if it's not like, oh, I'm fine, I don't need to do anything about it, right? It's like you said, another to-do list or another thing. Like, if I'm not broken, then I'm okay.
Well said. In the book, I have a famous quote, and I love this quote. It's by Socrates, and it's contentment is natural wealth, where luxury is artificial poverty. I think in today's world, we're focusing on the luxuries of life, but that really doesn't get us to what really fulfills us. And if we dig deep, those biohacks that many people think about is, oh, if I just do this, I'll have more energy, I'll have more spirit. It's not that simple, and it never has been that simple. It's a daily movement in a direction that you choose, but you have to choose it. So when I wrote Adjusted Reality, the number one thing I wanted people to recognize is you're choosing it. You get to go down any path. It's the Robert Frost, two roads diverged in a wood, and I chose the one less traveled by, and that made all the difference. That quote really is, you're going to end up somewhere. The question is, do you know where you want to go? Because oftentimes we're nowhere. And I love that statement. We're nowhere. GPS coordinates today can't find you if you're nowhere. You can't tell me where you are, so I can't find you. I can't help you. So many people today are lost in the healthcare system. They can't be found. They don't even know what doctor to go to or who to talk to. And then I thought to myself, break the system into what you can do and then what the healthcare system can do. And that is going from nowhere to now here. Now I found you. Now you have agency to pick up where you think you need help, but who's going to travel the road with you? And unfortunately, in today's world, we have really two systems. We have a health care system, which should be prevention and alleviation, or sorry, prevention and optimization. And then we have a sick care system. Everybody's stuck in the sick care system and they're calling it healthcare. When you
Mm.
have a disease, you're in a sick care system. But like you in fitness and really working out and natural health and all the things that we love, that's a healthcare system. And they should be separate and distinct with one road that interconnects so we can collaborate when you need it. And that's where I think, you get through reading the book. The book takes everyone on a totally different journey, I think, because it's where you are, it's perspective on how you look at things. And then when you look at things through your lens, that opens up to what happens when you decide to take your own poisons. They could be thoughts, they could be relationships, they could be the career you're in, or you get into a pain cycle from the traumas that you've been through. So, perspective, pain, and looking at the ability for us to really perform in our life are really keys.
That's so well put in such a nice way to like get curious about like just some, yes, the healthcare system, the sick care system, and thinking about where am I and what do I need. And you also mentioned in your book early on the idea of whole health and
Yes.
the aspect. I'm all about holistic health and the whole person. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you mean by that and like why it's so important?
So the fundamental reason why I used and we're growing this term as time has really taken us on this journey is whole being care. What does that mean? Why is it important? And whole being is really looking at your life through a lens that takes you from just thinking about mind, body, and spirit, and combining that with something that helps you navigate today's world. Because a lot of times, and this is why I think Adjusted Reality is so very, very different than your normal healthcare book is, I'm not giving you answers. I'm pulling from the ground the road that you're walking on. And I use that metaphorical mountain type of analysis because so many people find the true challenge in life is getting up to the summit, but that's not actually it. The true challenge is one step in front of the other, and it's really not reaching that peak per se, but actually being able to sustain that journey through the summit and the descent. Because as we're seeing our aging population, we want them to be healthy, strong, and capable, but it starts with where you are right now. What age are you? And what are some of the things that you're facing that could challenge both the mental, physical, and the spiritual portion of your journey?
Yeah, I can see that. And I really like that you're not giving like simple answers or quick fixes. You're really just challenging the paradigm of how we see health and how we see our bodies and putting it in our own hands to decide and to think about what we might need to do. And you've also had experience, 25 plus years of clinical experience. I'm curious about what's something that we can do, like you say, step by step, that maybe is a common issue that you noticed in your work or you notice right now. What are some things or that we can do to, take the next step in general to, prevent pain, to promote more balance in our bodies, to move towards health?
This really becomes the seven pillars. And I purposefully worked with the chiropractic profession over the last 10 years being in this role where we work with all the chiropractors around the world. And fundamentally, chiropractic has been very different because it is about the healthcare piece. And when a patient comes to a healthcare provider and you're expecting them to help you with your health, don't expect a prescription pad. And that's step number one is you are choosing the differentials on what you want to explore in your healthcare journey. If you're sick, that's separate, meaning that if you have a disease or you're facing some very difficult symptoms that are going to need pharmaceutical approach, that's a separate system. And I think as we look at our bodies, we need to start really being aware of where we sit on the spectrum of health, from disease care all the way over to what I would consider to be the optimum health. So, optimizing your health. So, the question you ask is so critical for your listeners to hear because as soon as you can determine where you are, now you can start to think, what do I need to take care of? Because some of us are in chronic pain. And I just saw the Journal of Pain. We're at the highest level of chronic pain in history in the United States. And that often comes, chronic pain often comes with an imbalance. Your nervous system is firing off, and you need to find the balance back because you don't have the same stimulus that caused the pain, but it continues to wire together. And we often have a saying that nerves that fire together wire together. So if you're in pain, those nerves they understand because one of the things I taught my interns going through their first year of really being in clinic is the important pieces of a patient understanding their health is number one, to understand the imbalance in their nervous system, the nerves fire together. But then I would ask them this: practice makes, and they'd always say perfect. Practice makes perfect. The problem is that statement is false. It is actually practice makes permanent. So you think of every day as your practice ground. What
Wow.
are you permanently putting into place that your body just naturally does? Like riding in, driving to work and you got a coffee in one hand, the music in playing in the background, and you're totally involved in something else. Your body has wired to go to work. They know exactly the direction, even though you're not thinking about the direction you're going in. These are the moments that you have to stop and reflect. What's wiring together in my life? Am I doing the best I can do, knowing what I know? Because one big piece is I can do better if I know better,
Hmm.
but it's still a choice. So, as I would say to my sons, I have two, a 21 and a 23-year-old, is just because you know better doesn't mean you'll do better. It has to be intentional. So, having alcohol, let's say, that's an intentional choice. No one's forcing you to have 7 shots at a college party. However, if you know what those shots will do, they're going to dehydrate you the next day. You're going to feel really hungry for fats and saturated products because your body is naturally craving it. It's a neurotoxin. What does that mean? It means it's technically changing how your neurons work. It's actually breaking them. And so the more choices we make to break our neurons, the harder it is to get back in balance. So we have to think about the choices we make every day. Some people will go absolutely crazy on exercise and they get into these brilliant, extreme challenges. Lovely, but what are you doing for recovery? And how are you being able to balance that hard work with the choices that you make in the recovery time? Because your body is a beautiful product. Some want to think of it as a machine, but it's so much more than a machine.
I agree. I don't like to think of it as a machine because then we go into like input, output, and formulas, and it doesn't work because we are more than just physical. We have stories, we have histories. Why do you think, I'm curious from your perspective, why do you think pain is the highest? Like, why do
Well,
you think we
pain is
have
a
to?
very complicated piece because what the body does is try to protect itself from further harm. So that's where your pain generators come into play. And the unfortunate piece is how we deal with the pain that comes in. For example, with traumatic brain injury, if you think of what happens there, traumatic brain injury can lead you down those nerves wiring together because your brain has been altered by the patterns that go through it. And we are now looking at this thing called neuroplasticity or coherence. And that's coherence is just, it's the basic term. It just means, is it all flowing in the right direction? And if so, why? And if not, why not? And chronic pain is a difficult subject because everybody is a fingerprint. Everybody is different. The traumas that they faced, the thoughts that they have, and the experiences that they've been through has gained this experience of time and how the body relates. So chronic pain is like an onion. You have to unfold what it is, and then you have to deal with all the parts that are unbalanced and that need to be aligned. And that's one of the biggest things that I think many people really don't fully understand is the alignment side of the nervous system. So in the good old days, everybody thought chiropractors were just about bones. That's what they did. But now the research is coming out, such as in the Journal of Brain, where you get an alignment, which chiropractors call an adjustment, and it actually impacts the brain waves. So your delta waves aren't impacted, which is your deep sleep, but your superficial, your REM, the delta, or sorry, the alpha and beta and gamma waves are impacted, which means if you get aligned, your body goes into a sleep mode much more fluidly. Now, the deep sleep we have not seen yet, but we're studying it. What's going to happen with deep REM sleep? Because we know if you sleep well, you heal well. That's the replenishment cycle. How does that work? And as we learn on the focus of coherence is how does the body produce what it needs in what we would call the heart rate variability. It's that going fundamentally back to the balance of the autonomic nervous system between sympathetic, which is your fight or flight, or parasympathetic, which is your rest and digest. If your body is off kilter, all the systems start to be impaired. And that, I think, is one of the fundamental flaws that people don't really understand. And it impacts our pain systems.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of learning around the nervous system and also like you mentioned the coherence and I've I didn't know so much. I also have associated chiropractor with bones, but I really like the idea of alignment, not just in your bones and like, because that's so important as well, but also like your nervous system. And I think the more that we learn, the more we're realizing how important our nervous systems are. And it's the operating system of our body. It's like the unspoken, unintentional, that our bodies are just working for us and our hearts, our breathing and our sleep. And I can see how that's so important. And I think a big part in me healing my own and like working through a lot of high stress states in my own life or a lot of pain that I've dealt with, something that has helped me, and maybe this is not for everyone, but something that has really helped me is like you said, becoming more aware, like slowing down and noticing what is happening, even if it's just noticing, like, oh, I feel scared. This is causing stress. I feel stressed right now. Why is this causing me stress? Why is this little thing that could be perceived in any way? Why is it causing me stress right now? And just noticing. The other thing I want to add, just like because I love it, is meditation. And studies have shown how helpful meditation has been for pain relief, like just noticing the pain in our bodies and slowing down. I think awareness is such a big part of health.
You're absolutely right. It's one of the most critical pieces is when you know better and you can fundamentally see what's happening around you, you can start doing better. I love that you brought up breathing because there's so much to know about just the rib cage. And you know that the story that I often come back to is I was probably maybe a month out of chiropractic college, and this man came in and he said he was having a heart attack. He was convinced, and I was like, "Why are you in my office then? If that's what you think?" And he goes, "Well, I was working out at the gym, and then something popped, so I figured you're the person to come and see." And I said, "Okay." So in retrospect, as I look through some of the things that have happened over the last 25 years, he fundamentally knew he slowed down long enough to know the pain started when something popped, and that was a rib. And a rib out of alignment causes the rib cage to change its dynamic and becomes imbalanced, which usually gives you a sharp pain because the body's saying, I can't take a big breath in and release it out because the rib head can go only one direction. It can go only up. Okay. So it gets stuck in the up position. So every breath you take, it like shocks you because it can't
Ouch.
drop down. And I so very much appreciate that patient experience so early in my career because it stopped me from thinking of there has to be a jump to a cause. And I jumped right away to if you think you're having a heart attack, why would you be here? Where I fundamentally needed to listen to the patient because what he was saying was, it can't be a heart attack because I listened to my body. And I heard a popping sound when I was trying to lift the weights, and they were heavy weights. And as soon as I dropped the weight, I felt the sharp pain and I knew I needed to see you. That was such an amazing experience as a chiropractor. And we see patients every day where they come in and they think they're having this just really bad heart problem. And we as physicians have to diagnose quickly and effectively to know that if this is an emergency case, they need to be out the door right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so stopping and just breathing can tell you a lot about your body because as we breathe, we can actually influence the parasympathetic system, like the rest and digest by the, I don't know if you've heard of the nasal breathing, the alternating nostril breathing.
Mm-hmm.
That's a beautiful one where you're fundamentally holding your right nostril and you're breathing in your left, and then you breathe out through your right. Those type of alternating, just very simple and short breaths through your nose can really change the way you feel if you're feeling stressed. So it's about listening to your body, learning about the choices, and slowing down enough to say, this is the most important piece I have. This is true wealth. This is how I want to live my life.
Yeah, and I'm curious what your perspective is, because I've done a lot of that like nervous system breathing and practicing and meditation. I just made a post where I've had to go to see where I do my meditation. Of course, I haven't counted it all, but it's I've done 100,000 hours of meditation in the last 9 years or so. It's big for me, and it's because I've been through a lot of pain where I've had to find my way to health, and even though I specialize in exercise and nutrition, I know how important the whole person is to health. But I'm curious, some people are hesitant to start doing, let's just say, for example, the nasal breathing, or they might find some temporary relief, oh, I'm having a stressful day, I do the nasal breathing, it helps. But then there's still maybe some long-term stress or anxiety or pain. I'm curious about would you say from your perspective, is it something that we need to just keep doing over time, or are there deeper practices that we can do to help align or find some more coherence in our body, so to speak, with our nervous system, with our brain?
This is where you have gone is a beautiful place because you opened a door that really opens people's thought processes. And I want to take you back to Simon Sinek. And most people will be like, how did you bring business into health? And
I love
here's one
Simon
of his
Sinek.
quotes. And everybody does it because he's so thoughtful in how he pours out the to-dos list. So if you focus on long-term success, you must be willing to make short-term adjustments. And that's how you get to where you need to go. And Simon Sinek used that a lot for more of the business type of practices, but it comes into everyday life. So what you need to recognize as you do some of the practices that you do is this is not a one and done. There's no perfect recipe to anyone's life. It is small adjustments that can make big differentials at the end of the day. I like to think of it as you start putting in your bank account in when you're doing well, because that rainy day account may come into play at some point, and how much money you have in that rainy day account will give you better choices. So if you think of your health like a bank account and you start depositing those meditations that come into play, you start depositing what I call the quaternary of movement. And that's the best part of where you are, Michelle, is your fitness level is what is the four most important parts of exercise? It's going to be stability, mobility, flexibility, and capability. Capability is my most favorite, which is strength training.
I knew you
That's
were
your
going to say that, yeah.
deposit, right? You're depositing back into your account. If you do end up having a problem, because life throws all sorts of curveballs at us, then you get to go to your bank account and say, you know what? I was preparing for this day. So you find people like my husband, I'm knocking on wood right now. Okay. He never gets sick. I mean, he literally, when he got COVID, it was a one and done, where it took me a week to get back to feeling myself again. But I also recognize my husband is very fit. He's very slim. He is a master of his own universe. He knows when to walk away from his computer. Unlike me, I could work 16-hour days. He's like, no, I'm turning off. I'm done. And I so admire that because it grounds me back to today's world. So
Mm.
figure out who you are and what type of things allow you to make those small adjustments during your day so that this can be a longevity for you, because no one wants to live longer, sicker. Everyone wants to have that maximum health span, which is I feel great, I look great, and I can think clearly, and I have an agile body that's able to do all of the things that it's meant to be. And why I think fundamentally people start to fail is they get caught in one of the deadly sins of body, mind, and spirit. And it's the deadly sin is called imbalance. Something goes haywire in your balance, and you need to get back to the focus. You're not giving enough into your rainy day bank account, and those withdrawals are costing you on a daily basis.
That's such a good analogy for people to think about with those small deposits. And I want to add too to that. It's just like investing in stocks or property where there's a compound effect. Because I can see I'm 37 now. I mean, I'm not that old, but I'm not that young. And I've been putting a lot of work into myself. Like I have done that. And I help other people do that as well. But I can see looking back how it has not only helped me in the moment, but I can see the compound effects over time where it's almost like more beneficial the longer I do it over time, like compound interest.
That's
And
right.
yeah, and I also like how you bring up that we never know what's going to happen. Like the other this month this year, like as healthy as I am, as much as I take care of myself, I twisted my ankle, I broke my bone, and yeah, it wasn't too bad, but like things just happen. We can't control everything that's going to happen to us, but we can control how often and how much we deposit into our like health bank accounts, so to speak, so that when that does happen, like I healed really quickly, I feel great because I know it's all the stuff that I've put in before that. So it didn't stop anything like quote unquote bad from happening, but it helped me heal a lot faster
Well
because of
said.
all the work I
And
put in.
it's kind of that moment of reflection that you just had, which is I did heal. I healed well and I healed completely. Now, one of the things that I always recommend people do is think about those inputs and what they mean long term is oftentimes we may not have all the information. And so finding a healthcare provider who's really focused on health, who's not focused on trying to get you, your next rheumatoid arthritis medication and not trying to get you through a traumatic fracture injury, but a healthcare provider who is looking at you and saying, you know what, you've had an accident. I'm here to fully align you. And that whole being alignment means I need to know where your joint that above the fracture line and below. Because the people often forget that it's not just the bone that got fractured, it's what happened to the joint that had to take on more stress, and what happened to the joint underneath it that had to take on less stress because you're healing the fracture. That's alignment. And then we get back to what did the muscles do? Some of them went on vacation while we were healing, and others needed to, like, do overnight 24/7 shifts. So, this is the critical component to when we have these upsets in life, which I call, setbacks. They're set up for comebacks, but who are you going to go to? And this is my question. And it's not a non judgmental question, is who are you going to have someone help you find your alignment in life? And you shouldn't be waiting till you're sick, and you shouldn't be waiting till you fall down, and you certainly shouldn't be waiting until it's the last straw. You need to find a healthcare provider who's going to be with you as a first choice option before pills, before drugs, before surgery, who can walk you back into that alignment.
And that's a great place to go next is like where do we find healthcare providers like that? I know that you are the president of the Foundation for Chiropractic Progress, and this is your life, this is your work. Where can people go? Like, can you point us to a good place where people could find access to providers like this?
Absolutely. And as a chiropractor, clearly that's my specialty, and that's where I love people to start. And I think healthcare providers are starting to collaborate really effectively, like massage therapists with chiropractors, yoga therapists with chiropractors, and naturopaths, the acupuncturists. This is a place where those healthcare providers should be working together fundamentally for the best interest of the patient, and the patient gets to choose. That's the most important part. If you want a chiropractor, you get a chiropractor. Learn as much as you want. If you want a physical therapist, because a lot of people will say, well, do they work together? Absolutely. A doctor should be willing to work with you and your healthcare providers. And if they do not, something's wrong. And
Hmm.
that's where I want to put it out, because in the past, they did not work effectively together, but the future has to be much more bright and much more aware that if they're not collaborating, they're from the past. They're not doing their due diligence to help you be the best you version. And we have a find a doctor directory on our website. It's F the number 4 cp.org. find a doctor. So no matter where you are listening to this podcast, you can find a doctor, maybe a chiropractor for your mom or your sister or your brother or your aunt or your uncle. Maybe it's your workmate next to you. That find a doctor directory is, I think, a beautiful place to start, because now you can start thinking about, what does my balance look like? How am I in alignment? Can I stop problems from happening before they happen? And the answer is obvious. Yes.
Yes, and you don't have to wait till there is a problem or a setback. You can go and do preventative work or even find out what might be out of alignment currently that you can work on so that when something does happen, you're better prepared. And
Beautifully
that's
said.
f4cp.com/, find a doctor. And that will be in the show notes as well. I'll put
Perfect.
that link in the show notes. And I always ask my guests one question, but before I get to that last question, is there any place where you would like people to find you, or where if people want to connect more with you and your work, like give us some places to go, including your book if you'd like.
Thank you. So, Adjusted Reality, both a podcast, that's how it started, and then moved into the Forbes book. To find the Forbes book, you can go anywhere that you buy your books. Love you to buy it and then review, give us feedback. The podcast is really bringing on, celebrities and influencers that really have looked at trying to build their life through their stories. Sometimes we resonate really beautifully with people's stories that, here's what happened to me. So Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, uh, all sorts of places where you'll buy your books. That's where you can find Adjusted Reality. But you can look up Adjusted Reality and you'll see Sherry Mcallister. I'd love to have you join us and send me information or questions. I'd love to help. I get hundreds of emails a week on people that are looking to better their health and what could they do, where could they go, all those kind of things. They're important because as soon as you start asking the questions, ask and you shall find. That's the beautiful part, is you ask the right questions and then you need to seek, and then seek and you shall find. I think that's a most important part. But at the end of the day, when you're really thinking about your health, it's really finding the life you desire and working backwards. How do I get to that peak? And you'll find so many more treasures along the way. And people like yourself, Michelle, that are really talking about health in a fun, relatable way where it doesn't become a chore. It becomes one of those inspirational moments in your day.
Yes, and I just want to point out, I do have a question to ask you, but I just want to point out, talking with you, your energy and the way that you talk about health and uh, your posture in it all, there's a groundedness where you have like, this is what I know, this is my wisdom, and you really put the onus on people to choose. They're like, I know this and I can help you with this, and this is valuable. This is the wisdom I've learned from my experience. And you also like create this space for people to come closer or to stay farther away. And I just really appreciate that energy of an invitation without force. And I know it comes from you doing a lot of your own personal work and groundedness, and I feel regulated talking with you, so I know that our nervous systems are pretty like calm with each other, and it's just an energy that I want to point out, especially to listeners who might not be picking up on that. But I really appreciate that about you in this conversation, Dr. Sherry Mcallister.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's fun when we have a love for what we do. I think
Yes.
that's perspective on passion. And I
Yeah.
would implore or explore those things in your life that really, what makes you fired up and ready to go every day. And your listeners are hearing you, and hopefully their passion is turned on. And if it's not, I like to go back to one of the founding forefathers of America, which is Abraham Lincoln. And he said the best way to predict the future is to create it. So if you want to predict what you want to be in 5 years, you only get better if you choose wisely. And the energy that you bring to the table every day is the energy that you get to also share with someone. And the beauty is oftentimes we come in those circles and they come back. That energy comes back. That's such a beautiful place to be. And I think, Michelle, that's where we are. It's the balance of energy.
That's right. That's right. I appreciate it. And I love that quote too. So, my question that I ask everyone is if you could share one message of health with the world, You have a microphone, all 8 billion people currently, and more counting. What would it be? What would your one message of health be?
Well, this will be a fundamental one, and it goes back to Mahatma Gandhi, which is to find true happiness, you will really become or do that to which you want for others that you want for yourself. So that giving back, the true ability to give back, if you've replenished your resources and you're taking care of you, to give back, it's like the highest level of joy. You get to a contentment level. And I think that's where you can really appreciate why you're on earth. So true
Mm.
health comes from balance and replenishing for you before you give to another. It's not selfish to love yourself. It's not selfish to take care of yourself. I would say the greatest joy you can have is care for yourself. And as you're caring for yourself, find someone else you can share that with. So, like an example for me, just this morning, if I took my multivitamins, then I know that the next person I want to give it to is the person I love most, my husband. So here's our multivitamins, just a small little tidbit of how you can give back to others because it fills you with joy. And I think it really inspires your nervous system to be on track with what you're going to do for the day. But take care of yourself, take time for you, find love, literally look in the mirror and ask yourself true health comes from love. Ask yourself, do I love me? Because so many people forget. It sounds very esoteric, but it's so true. Do I love myself? And if not, why? And explore that.
That's so beautiful. And it goes back to like alignment, where it has to be both giving to ourselves, receiving and giving. If you're only giving, it's out of balance. If you're only receiving, it's out of balance. And that's the beauty of life, reciprocation and alignment and balance. Thank you so much for that message. That's really beautiful. And thank you
Thank you,
so
Michelle.
much. And thank you so much for your time. This has been such a joy talking with you. And I will put the links in the show notes, and I look forward to speaking with you again.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Michelle. I appreciate it.